Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nation's Call podcast with Jonna and Alyssa. Here we talk about stories from the missions field, how our theology has been changed by being with the broken and various cultures, along with other missions reflections. We hope we can uplift and inspire you with our stories and musings. Thank you for listening.
Hi, welcome back to the Nation's Call podcast. Today we're talking about colonization.
Whoa.
I feel like I should preface this by saying that this is a little bit of a sad...
It's a hard topic.
It's a hard topic.
Well, also, I have an art history minor, so studying all of the history that comes with studying these different cultures, I left in tears. A lot.
Often it was Christian missionaries came in and wrecked everything, and then they left.
Yeah, and then I would sit in class and be like, okay, but I'm a Christian missionary. How do I not wreck everything and leave?
Yeah.
How can I make it better? Because if this is my past, if this is like, we talk about how passing the torch kind of idea, this is passing on the torch of like, we screwed up. Here you go. How do I fix it?
It's like passing on the torch and then lighting somebody's house on fire with it.
I feel like my house is on fire. My house is flooded.
All right, let's back up a little bit. What is colonization? What does it mean? So from the National Geographic, colonization is defined as control by one power over a dependent area or people. It occurs when one nation subjugates another, conquering its population and exploiting it, often while forcing its own language and cultural values on its people. Colonization can also happen individually. It happens by people trying to gain power over another and then exploiting that person, or changing them in such a way that they don't even recognize themselves or their culture. So, missions, by nature, does try to change the religion of the people. Colonization can also happen individually when one person exploits another person.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically in missions, because the entire premise of missions is usually, emphasis on usually, trying to change the religion of the people, the country that you're going to,
mm-hmm.
then, the main goal is
well, the main goal should be, I'm introducing you to my best friend, Jesus. Take that as you will, have a relationship with Jesus, and they get a relationship with Jesus. And it doesn't come with the ties that we give them, but we give them the ties because that's our culture. Like, okay, well, in our culture, it's a sin to drink, and in our culture, it's a sin to do this, and in our culture, it's a sin to do that. Well, in their culture, they've grown up with, they drink beer or whatever, and it's not an issue.
Yeah.
So we kind of give them cultural ties. Like, for example, when we went to a Roma church, I was really struggling because they had a very long list of things that you could and could not wear.
Yeah, more specifically for, women.
Yeah.
The list was pretty much just anything women could or could not wear. For men, it was like, hey, wear pants.
I mean, we also weren't friends with very men.
That's true. That's true.
So we don't really know. But it was wear a headscarf, wear long sleeves in the summer without AC, wear a or a floor-length dress, wear closed-toed shoes, do not wear jewelry. What else was there?
Which is really just...
And the reason why...
countercultural, because Romas are usually just decked out in tons of beautiful gold and silver jewelry. That's identity.
So, I mean, it really bothered me because that's part of Roma's identity. So, another thing that I think is interesting is when we talk about colonization... I remember when we stopped and had lunch in London over a layover, I was telling my sister, because she was like, you should have something traditionally Great Britain, like something very traditional. And I was like, yeah, I am. I'm having tikka masala. And she's like, that's Indian. That's not that's not English. And I'm like, it is. It's their country food. Why? Because they've colonized India. And that has a whole thing. But I just looked up and lost Alyssa's train of thought of how many countries Great Britain has invaded, and it is all but 22 countries. They have invaded every country on the planet except for 22. And
there are almost 200.
And that's like insane to me. That's so many. And they've taken things, like they've taken, India's food as their own because they didn't know how to do spices. I don't know.
We have to have an honest conversation about what it looks like to colonize people in missions. Some of the ways that might look is, for example, with the Romas, forcing them to take off their jewelry in order to worship.
Yeah.
Forcing them to wear extra material in order to worship. Basically, like, if you're trying to worship God,
come as you are.
Yeah, I don't know that putting barriers in front of religion is the way to get more people into the religion.
No, I actually stayed, you probably remember, when we asked the pastor why all of these rules. Specifically, why not the jewelry? As I'm used to seeing Romas decked out in jewelry. And he responded with, because it's tradition. And because of a verse in the Bible that talks about how women don't dress up, more or less.
Don't braid your hair, don't wear extravagant jewelry.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I responded with, but you know why that's there. It's because the Corinth women were spending like 12 hours a day getting ready. It's not because you can't wear jewelry. And he just got really mad and defensive. But I was still bothered.
Which is something that happens often, is that we teach people in their country of origin how to go and colonize their neighbors.
And I don't think it should be a thing. I don't think it should be. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I don't like the idea that in order to do missions correctly, I need to teach people how to be American. I don't think that that's right.
No, I think Jesus is very much come as you are. And whatever is not supposed to be there, I'll fix it. And it's not to do with any of us. I'm not to tell you what you can and cannot do. That's between you and God.
So back in 2018, there was a Christian man from, I want to say America. I am pretty sure. Yeah, he's from the United States. And he decided that he was going to go do missions on the North Sentinel Islands, which is on the border of India. It's in the ocean. And it is protected by the Indian government. It's an indigenous group of people that is unreached by society, by pretty much everything. They have stayed the same for many years. And they live on that island, and nobody's allowed to go there for many reasons. One of them being, diseases, stuff like that. So he snuck onto a boat and went to the island and was shot and killed by arrows fired by the indigenous people from the island. And then after his death, a lot of Christians, including, indigenous Christians around the world, they talked on social media about whether or not this was missions or if it was colonization. What is the difference between loving and colonization? Where is the line? And did he cross it?
Well, also, he snuck onto this boat, didn't know this language, only had an English Bible with him.
Right, that's part of it.
And so my thing is, he didn't have a translator. He didn't know the language. Why? I don't understand his logic exactly. Maybe he thought God would supernaturally translate for him. But I still feel like that wasn't using wisdom.
That's That's a big risk to take.
It's a really big risk.
If you're willing to go to some place legally, get on a boat, like, it's wild. That's like, it still just kind of boggles my mind because I'm like, you could have been alive longer and thought about like a good way to
continue on.
Yeah. Or like
grow and whatever. And my problem is, like, if I felt like, I feel like if I had this decision of let's go reach this unreached people and I don't know the language, I either personally need to learn the language or have a translator. And I know that God can do supernatural, wonderful things. I've heard a lot about God, like, downloading languages to people. But unless I was, like, heard an audible voice from God,
which,
who's to say he might have, but, like, I don't know. I just am not seeing the logic here.
And I also think this brings up a question for me, should every people group be missioned to? And I think the answer is no. I think that if you're going to cause more harm by being there at all, then that's not loving.
That's not loving your neighbor. No. And my personal opinion is God judges on knowledge. And to me, I'm like, those people are going to be, like, to me, I feel like those people are going to be okay because God judges on knowledge and they have not been able to be reached in that way or form. I don't want to bring diseases. Whenever Europeans came over to North America, we killed so many Native Americans on accident, for one.
And then on purpose.
But on accident because of the diseases that we carried. And I would hate to be that person that carried the diseases and slaughtered a whole continent of people.
Very morbid joke I've heard about this stuff is like, all right, let's go meet Jesus.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Bringing souls to Christ.
Literally.
One disease at a time.
Ouch.
And I'm just like...
These shouldn't be funny.
It's funny and it's not. It's like, it hurts me because it's a real thing that happens. And I just keep sitting with it and I'm just like, I don't know. Because the reason that we're in missions at all is more to change the structure of what's
been done
currently happening. Like, it's to undo harm. So
right.
I'm not really focused so much on unreached people as I am changing the structure of missions entirely.
Right.
Because my gifting is more administrative.
Yeah. I'm very, like, teacherly. And so somebody was asking me this week, oh, why are you going to Romania? And I'm like, oh, well, I'll be training missionaries on how to mission, love your neighbor, listen to their community, basically don't be toxic. And they responded with, wow, we need that here. And I'm like, don't we though? Yeah, but not me. Like, don't send me here. I'm already here and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But just kind of like, we're seeing this issue and we don't want the issue to further. So how can we fix this? This is, a discussion. How can we fix this? And I think it's also like, it kind of goes into like, how do we prevent colonization, as in, like, how do we prevent accidentally being a cult? I feel like that's kind of very similar.
Right. I think the way to do it is to consistently listen and be extremely willing to be wrong and be told, kind of like, honestly, I'm willing to be told, shut up, sit down, by nationals in Romania.
Yeah.
Because I'm not Romanian.
Right.
So, therefore, if they say something's hurting, then we need to listen to that, especially if we're going to be bringing other people into it.
Yes.
I want to be the first person that's told, ouch, that was painful. Like, I want to be the first person they tell, don't do that to. Right. Because we're the people that are supposed to be, like, helping set up their missionaries to come and do work. So, we should know what we should not be doing.
Right.
Very intimately,
yes.
I think.
Yes, I think so too. And I think, asking for change or noting like, hey, this is wrong is always going to hurt. So, there's a time and a place where I feel like, yeah, that's a given. That's going to hurt. knowing that. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, yeah, I do need to shut up and sit down. And this is kind of like one of my major prayer points whenever people ask, like, okay, how can I pray for you when you move to Romania? I'm always like, I want the wisdom of God. Like, because I know I'm teacherly. I know there's a lot of things I see and I want to critique and I want to like come at it and be like, okay, let's go a different way. But I don't want to come in like a wrecking ball. I want to be very like graceful and honorable and, you know, be a blessing without like, ha,
right.
Don't do that.
I'm a fixer. I love to fix stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you have to literally ask people, do you want this fixed?
Yeah.
Or, you know, how can I give you the tools to fix it yourself?
Right.
Because half the time they don't need me to fix it. They just need the stuff to do it themselves.
Like that washing machine.
Yeah. Like I tried to fix a washing machine in Romania and I was told like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. You're a woman, you know, let one of the boys do it. And it probably came from a very nice place of, you know, it's dirty work and you shouldn't have to do it. But I wanted to do it and I knew that I could have fixed it, but I did not have the tools.
Right.
And I felt very vulnerable, honestly. I was frustrated and I was just irritated. And it's like, no, I could do this myself.
Right.
I could do this.
Give me the tools.
But instead it's like, no, here, let me do it. Let me fix it. And it felt really patronizing, honestly. And I think that we do that to people in missions a lot, is that we say, here's some clothes, instead of, hey, how can I help you find a job?
Right. Right. And they talk about, in the Helping Without Hurting book, they talk about how the difference between relief and development. And that we might get into this later. Probably. Are we getting into this later?
Yeah, we will go into relief versus development later. But it definitely is part of the colonization conversation.
So we'll get into it later, but they talk about relief versus development. And how can the seamstress down the street compete with the short-term mission team that comes in every month that is giving away free clothes?
We just took a job from someone.
Yeah. So the relief is giving out free clothes, free food, free water. The development is developing the economy of this place of like, okay, she's a seamstress. Let's start buying from her. All right, let's hire locals to work on this new building. All right, let's, you know.
Let's outsource this stuff. How can we get international shipping for this person's products? Like,
yes.
It's just, you connect the community with the resource and you see the development.
Yes. Yeah. And so we'll get into that more later. But that is also a part of colonization, is always constantly making a place in relief mode, which cripples them.
Part of missions is being able to leave.
Yeah.
You have to be able to go back home and know that those people are going to be okay and better off that you came.
Yeah.
And sometimes short-term missions does not do that.
No. I mean, it kind of goes with the ideology of, you know, whenever you borrow something, you clean it up, you make it like new. You know, like you stay in a place and you clean it better than it was. Like you fix it, you always put more gas in the car when you borrow a car, etc. Like you make it better
than you found it.
Yeah, that's the wording I was looking for.
So, some examples of colonization in missions would be, you in your art history class learned about the weavers of Peru.
Yeah.
And what the Christian missionaries did to their craft. So talk about that a little bit.
So in 1500s, I'm pretty sure it was Peru. It's South America, at least. They did a 14,000 thread count by hand in the 1500s. And that's like impressive. Within the past 10 years, we finally came up with the technology to do 14,000 thread count with machines. And missionaries came and they said, okay, well, you cannot weave your idols anymore, your other gods. Well, they were still not serving like Christianity. They were still in their own religion. And so, of course, like in tradition, they always did their other gods. And so they still weaved their other gods. And it got to the point where they're like, fine, you can't weave anymore. And they took away all of their tools and everything. And to this day, they don't know that technology. It's completely lost. because the culture itself totally lost how to weave. And that was the Spanish Inquisition.
I think that if you have to force someone into your faith, you're not doing it right.
I agree. I think if you use the fear tactic, you're not doing it right.
We are not parents trying to discipline Native people into submission.
Right.
Missions is literally just love your neighbor. The rest is just commentary.
Right.
Like, it's not even, it's, to me, yes, people converting, honestly, it's almost like it happens, but it's not the point at all.
No.
Because the point is more like that you care about these people and you want their lives to be better because that's what my faith tells me to do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same idea as me bringing up, some random person, let's say Lisa. It's like me coming up with Lisa, being like, Alyssa, you and Lisa should be best friends.
And then I'm like, I don't even know Lisa.
And then leaving. Like, I leave, and I'm like, you and Elisa, best friends. Best friends. How are you and Elisa doing? How are you and Lisa doing? Are you and Lisa, like, good terms? Here's a book that Lisa wrote.
And then I just read the one book that Lisa wrote, and it confuses me because I don't have very much context.
Right. And then you're like, yeah, me and Lisa are friends because you want me to leave you alone.
What am I supposed to do with all the genocide in the first couple chapters?
And then I'm like, all right, check. I got one. Yay, I got one. One saved.
Honestly, it's that bad. It's kind of like, yay, I got one. Like, I caught a fish.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
But that's not how it is. How it is we go to a party, me and you have a good friend, and I invite Lisa. And then I'm like, yeah, we're good friends. And then me and you and Lisa talk. And
it's
then
almost like you and Lisa throw the party. I don't know.
Yeah.
This metaphor is spinning out of control.
It is a little bit. But like the kind of idea is, you don't become best friends because I tell you to become best friends. You become best friends because we're all three together.
It's like if I got into a car accident and you and Lisa were like, can I drive you to the hospital? Can I get you some ice packs?
Right.
Here's an IV. That kind of stuff. And then I would be like, what made you do that?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's like the whole tenet of like my Christian faith and what I believe that it should be is to love others to the point where they don't feel like it's normal.
Yeah.
And then if they ask me why I am so caring and,
Right. You actually care?
Then I tell them about my faith and how I feel like it helps me be a better person. And then if they want that, then I help them get there. And that's kind of it.
It's walk the walk, not talk the talk.
Right. I want to be a good person so that people see, like, they'll know you by your works. I want to be a good enough person to where they see that's a good person. And then,
right.
Go from there rather than just be like, be a terrible person, come into town once and be like, yay, hooray, Bible, you're all going to hell, but hooray, Bible.
Right.
Okay, bye. Like, that's weird to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like how I was in the studio. I made like a self-rule of I was not going to talk about Jesus. I was not going to talk about Christianity. I wasn't going to bring it up. I like made sure that I had this rule in my heart of like, I don't feel like this is the place. I feel like these people are hurting, and like a lot of them are. Most of the people that I ran into were church hurt, and I do not blame them for it at all because they had every right to be church hurt because the church did them dirty. And so I was like, I'm just going to be a good person and let God do whatever he's plans on doing. And my professor, whom I adore, was very anti-Christian because he was abused. and raised in the Christian household and abused with religion.
Spiritual abuse is massive.
It's a massive topic that we will cover later. And I don't blame him, but he would make snide remarks.
Teaser. Jonna was in a cult.
I was in a cult. But, like, he would make comments, but he would, like, bring up topics of... He talked about how the last time he was at church, and he's a college professor, the pastor told everybody, the whole congregation, about how they need to stop sending their children to college because that's making them atheist. And I turned around and I was shocked and I was like, that is exactly against the Bible, because the Bible says ask for wisdom and to seek knowledge. And so...
if your faith can't stand up to scrutiny, then it's not faith.
No, it's just what you're being told. And
it's not your faith anyways. It's someone else's faith that they just spoon-fed you.
Right. Like, I don't believe in God because my parents do. I believe in God because I've met him face to face.
Yeah, it's just, it's
so different. So having those experiences, like, I never brought it up, but, like, things would be said. And I never said I was Christian. I never talked about it. But they would say, Jonna, doesn't it make you mad when a pastor says they're super good at something and then come to find out they're, like, abusive? And they were talking about a certain one. And I was like, yeah, that infuriates me, because they're supposed to be a good Christian and they're supposed to be a light of the world. And they're supposed to be wonderful and, you know, really encouraging everybody. And yet they're going to be like that? Are you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, you see it because you're a good person. And I'm like, thanks. Like, I need that, actually. But they knew I was Christian without me saying it. And that's what I'm saying. Walk the walk. Don't talk. Just, some people don't need you to talk. Some people need to see you actually doing it. So another thing that I learned in art history class was how Africa was missioned to first by Christians. And Christians did not teach them to read. I'm not really sure why. But then Muslims came and missioned, and they taught Africans how to read. And so therefore they became more Muslim. And so a lot of the countries in Africa are actually viewed as mostly Islamic because they were taught how to read. So I feel like whenever you mission, if you don't empower that person, if you don't empower the culture, if you don't bring something to the table that's physical,
then it's just colonization all over again.
Right. Like, you're not really doing anything. Like, you're giving them Jesus, but Jesus...
They can't even... I don't even know how you have a faith for yourself if you can't read the Bible and make your own decisions.
Well, reading the Bible is a new thing. Individually.
Oh. Because historically, people were taught by the church instead of reading it themselves.
And they didn't even know the Bible that well either.
I see.
Yeah.
So the time period doesn't match up.
No. But, like, I'm saying, like, if you're going to mission to a culture...
Yeah, you need to give them
a rod, not just a fish. Raul has a whole, like, thing about, like, a rod, not a fish, because it's a whole, like, teaching people how to...
So basically...
Don't be a colonizer.
And I think you have to actually give people...
a trait.
You have to empower them.
You have to
in some form.
Yeah. Like, and not just relief work. You need to help them. Actually help them.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of hashing a lot of this out in real time because it's a lot of hard questions that I'm not sure how to answer. And that's pretty much the point, is that I want to be not a colonizer.
Right. So
and I'm not 100% sure what that means.
Well, letting people have their culture and eat it too. Like, have their cake and eat it too. Like, let them be who they are and come to Jesus how they are and let Jesus deal with them if they need to change. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe our convictions has been socially constructed.
We're skewed.
Maybe we are skewed. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to bring somebody Jesus, don't tell them they're wrong for dressing like the rest of their culture, etc.
Yeah.
But let them be who they are. Jesus will fix whatever needs to be fixed. If it needs to be fixed.
Things at all. Yeah, the personal faith part of Christianity is worth holding on to. Mm-hmm. As far as missions goes.
I have a really...
And the rest of the world, in life.
Right. I have a very strong, very, very strong emotion about how we are not the ones to tell people what they should and should not be convicted about. And they should read that for themselves. Like, okay, you have the 10 Commandments. And I feel like that's the only thing you can really say, like, don't be like this. But it's really just be a good person. I don't feel like it's any of our business to tell anybody else who they can be or what they can be.
Do no harm.
Do no harm. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but it's walking in love if you point it out. But it's not. It's not. That's what people say to make themselves feel better. It is not love.
Yeah. I mean, you can point out certain things to people in ways that they're harming others, but that comes with relationship. You have to be in a long-term committed relationship with that person where you are committed to being in community with them whether or not they change.
And they have to know that you're a friend.
Yeah, they have to know that you actually care about them and that you're committed to their well-being.
No matter what.
In order for you to say anything about their lives that matters.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just don't think that you should. Because going to a stranger on the street and complaining about her earrings...
She's not love.
Gonna think that you're
crazy and need to go away.
Yeah.
It's only going to cause offense, and we're not supposed to actually cause offense. Not like that.
Not at all.
No. So it's not love when you correct somebody that you don't have a solid relationship with. Like, it would be different if I corrected you because we're best friends and I have a solid relationship with you. And you know that even if you didn't follow my advice, that I would still love you. That is completely different.
Because I don't follow your advice a lot.
What are you talking about? You always follow my advice.
Well, I don't know. You don't give me a lot of advice.
No, because you don't need it. It's not love to just correct somebody out of the blue because you felt like it. Because you felt like what they're doing is wrong. Because unless it's actually harming somebody else...
I don't know. You just shouldn't say anything about it. Because...
They need to come to that on their own terms in their own way. Like, okay, this goes back to... I was in an 8-year abusive relationship. And anybody that told me that I needed to get out of that relationship... I immediately marked them off my list, and I didn't talk to them about my relationship ever again. It got to the point where I only talked to one person, and that's because he was always there for me. It was my best friend, Chad. What's up? And he did not straight up tell me that he's a bad guy, or he's just, using me, or whatever. He was there for me, and he didn't tell me about how wrong I was. So therefore, I was always in a good relationship with him because I didn't feel like I was being condemned.
Yeah. I think that sometimes we need to sit with people in the middle of their mess and not talk.
Yeah.
And just sit there and just sit with them. And that's part of living in community with people and helping shoulder burdens and helping shoulder grief is our willingness to be there and show up and not bring ourselves into the situation and not bring our opinions in.
Right.
I have a lot of opinions. This podcast is literally just Alyssa and Jonna's personal opinion time.
Right.
But I try very hard to not bring my opinions into situations that are already painful.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't think it helps.
No, it doesn't. And it also, what helps, like, I don't know, I just see random relationship advice sometimes, is asking, are you wanting advice or are you wanting a listening ear?
90% of the time it's a listening ear.
Yeah. So
like, I just need a vent. Or like, they just need to
zip the lips and just be quiet and be a listening ear. Be the shoulder to cry on. And then if they ask for opinions, you give it. But like, even recently, one of my nephews is going through a hard time. And I told him, I'm like, well, if you want my opinion, I can give it to you. But if you don't, I'll just be quiet. It's fine. And that's how I wanted to deal with it. I was like, you are probably getting opinions from every person in my family. And so if you don't want mine, that's fine. I have an opinion. I have a very strong opinion. But like you might not need it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what mercy looks like, is sitting there with the person and not. Sometimes that's what mercy looks like, is sitting there in the mess and not giving your opinions and not bringing your judgments to the table, and you make some tea and you just keep drinking it until they're done talking, and that's how you keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what works for me.
Yes. Oh, is that why you drink tea so often?
Somebody has a hard problem and I'm having a real hard time not talking about it, I make myself a dry peanut butter sandwich.
That's good advice. Good advice.
Just
maybe
a dry peanut butter sandwich.
Maybe a lot of us, maybe it could be me, just needs a dry peanut butter sandwich.
That's how you don't colonize in missions, is you make yourself a dry peanut butter sandwich and you sit there with the people and you listen to them, tell them, accept hospitality. That's my next point, is be willing to accept the hospitality of the people. I'm doing something else.
Yeah, you're fine. No, I'm just asking, like, who doesn't accept the hospitality?
Oh, people don't accept hospitality all the time, Jonah.
Why?
Missionaries will come and they will think, oh, this person doesn't have anything. I should not eat the food that they're providing to me.
But that's rude.
It is, but it happens.
Yeah, okay.
You need to accept the hospitality to show that first of all, because they're offering it. And honestly, we should accept humbly what people give to us.
It is hard for somebody to, like, not have any food to offer me their last little bit of rice and me being like, yes, thank you. Because I'd be like, please, you eat the rice. I don't like rice. I get it.
So,
okay, I get it when you say it that way.
You gotta accept the hospitality that comes your way, and it's part of the whole humility and grace thing, and it shows that you see yourself on equal footing, that you need something from them as much as they need something from you, and that something may not be a real tangible article. It may not be money. It may not be food. It may not be clothing.
It might just be an emotional...
It might be emotional support.
Yeah.
Missions might just be us being two emotional support dogs.
I'm fine with that.
And honestly, that lifts a lot of the burden off of the people coming. Because then you don't have to think, oh my God, what do I need to pack? Do I need to pack an extra pair of shoes for a kid that I'm going to see in the street? Like, do I need to pack this? Do I need to pack that? No, you just come, you bring yourself, maybe some money for the pastor. We already talked about that. And you bring yourself and you commit to being humble and to being willing to listen and to be served and to serve also.
Right.
Wash the feet. Let your own feet be washed. The hardest thing I have ever had to do was when we washed each other's feet before missions, having my own feet washed. So humble. Like, it breaks off all of the pride you have.
It is. It's really weird because I'm like, no, let me serve you. And then you're like, let me wash your feet. And I'm like, I didn't plan this far.
Honestly, it's just, I think that a foot washing ritual should be part of almost every mission trip just because it brings up a lot of weird emotions about being served. And that's going to come up on the field inevitably. So you need to just get it over with before you come at all.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And Romanians are super hospitable. Like
the most. Like that
they have
top tier.
A whole spread waiting for you. Like, man, those Romanians we met in Hoskovo, I miss them.
Is ironically in Bulgaria.
Yeah. They were waiting for us, and we walk in and they had 5 liters of sodas and then like a whole spread of pastries and desserts, and it was so nice. Wow, I really miss them. I'm gonna cry.
I know. I miss them too, like, a lot. I think about that. And then they, like, packed us food for the road.
Yeah, they're like, please take it. And I'm like, I hate that I haven't seen them since.
I learned so much about hospitality.
Honestly.
On the trips we met to go meet with people and try to connect them to help.
Right? And like our contacts in Serbia, they picked out our room. They wanted us to have the view over the entire city. I like walked in and I cried.
It was gorgeous. I don't even think I've stayed in nicer hotels since people decided where to put us up in hotels across the Balkans.
Because that's definitely not where I would choose. I would definitely choose like the cheapest one and pray there's no bed bugs, which there isn't in Europe, by the way. I looked it up.
That's great. I love that.
But like, you know, and then just being treated with so much honor, it's like, I don't deserve this, but thank you for making me feel special. You know, and that's what I want to do.
Literally, the gospel is I don't deserve this, but thank you for making me feel special.
Right. Like, that's what I want other people to feel, is like to remember me, to cry like I am, and to be like, they were so nice and they thought about me. Like, those people didn't even know who we were and picked out a hotel for us that overlooked the city before they met us. They didn't know if they were even going to like us.
They didn't. I felt the most seen,
right?
Like, it's just, it's the shared humanity. Like, they see, they're like, this would be nice. They thought about it. They really, like, they thought about, these people are coming, we need to make something nice for them.
Right.
And they did it, and they put us up in a really nice hotel room, and just...
And I think that...
They thought about where to take us to eat, what to show us in this city.
Yeah.
That would, like, most bring out their personal pride in where they lived and also draw us to like...
Come back.
To come back and to just, like, learn.
I wish I was there.
It just... I'm gesturing a lot because I don't really have the correct words for this.
Right.
Just...
Right. And that's...
I felt seen and cared for and loved, and I want to do that for other people.
Right. And that's what missions is. I don't deserve this, but thank you.
Yeah. That's it. That's the tweet.
Yes. And that's how I feel. Like, that's how I treat other people, you know. When I've had whole youth groups stay in my house for conference, I like wrote little encouraging love notes to each person and put them on their bed and then put a chocolate with them. And I'm like, that's what I want. And some of them, I know they still have that little note with their name on it that has all of these warm and fuzzies about how wonderful they are and how good of a person they are in their Bibles.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I would keep forever.
Right? And that's what I want to do for other people. So when that's done for me, I'm like, wait a second. This isn't right. And it's totally different. Because I'm never expecting that. I'm like, just put me in the hostel that's like €9. Not the nice hotel overlooking the whole place. That's too expensive. I'm not worth it.
And yet they were like, yeah, you're worth it.
Yeah.
And I was like, So to wrap up, I think the 3 tenets of non-colonizer missions are hospitality. I see you. I love you. That's the whole thing. It's do no harm. And it's
let people come as they are.
It's dry peanut butter sandwich.
Dry peanut butter sandwich. Let people have a shoulder to cry on and come as they are. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this hard conversation where we hashed out a lot of feelings.
A lot of them I cried.
Yes. So, Shauna has a blessing for us doing no harm.
Yes. Thank you, God, that we have this opportunity to really learn who you are. Thank you that you are always hospitable to us and you always want to listen and have a shoulder to cry on, that you are a gentle, gentle God with loving mercy. And God, I ask that we all can just follow your footsteps and be a mirror of who you are, that we are hospitable, that we accept hospitality, that we love our neighbor and listen to the community and let people come as they are, and that we do no harm.
And give us a dry peanut butter sandwich if we open our mouth too wide.
Yes, please. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
The Nation's Call is a 501c3 missions organization supported by wonderful people like you. If you would like to partner with us, you can do so by going to Patreon at patreon.com/thenationscall and by following us on Instagram and Facebook, where you can also ask us questions we might address here. Thanks for listening to the Nation's Call podcast.